lessening the amount for group sizing, capacity in public places. So it does affect the people in the community. And I know that Shaki has shared on the call some of the adjustments that her program had to make in regards to this rise in cases in that particular area. Of course, I put on here for the ACF OHS guidance the link to eClick where the camp series, all of the sessions are housed there for you to refer to. This past Wednesday on the 5th was the actual last session, which to me was the most informative. If you didn't have an opportunity to listen to any of the sessions, please utilize that link and you can refer to any information there. It's very in-depth. I also attached to the email along with your agenda for that camp session series, they included a slide, a 40 slide a compilation of the 40 top questions from the lightning round. So, you know, at the end of each session, they would have what they considered the lightning round of some specific questions that grantees were asking. And so I attached that to your email as well with the agenda for a reference point, because those seem to be the hot topic questions that would come up. So please review that. I'll just skip down to the resources that I included.
Tondra, could I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I don't see that attached to this email. Did I miss it?
Well, let me go back, but I thought that I attached three. I did the needs assessment again. I did the actual agenda, and then I see Angela shaking her head. Thank you. And I also attached.
Oh, is this what you mean as the 40 things? This one?
I still see the agenda, so I'm not sure if you're switching out.
Oh, bummer. I'm sorry. I was switching.
Okay.
I thought move. Okay, well, it says welcome to OHS Camp Session 6.
Yes, so when you scroll down, those are all of the questions there. They're on the slides.
Okay, all right. I thought it was like a PDF, and this is really in the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm sorry.
What they did was they put the resource together in that format, so you can see what the topic was for session 6. What was it supposed to include? But then as you scroll down, then you'll see the questions will come up there.
Okay. And I did scroll through the questions yesterday. Now that I think about it, there's a lot to them. There's a lot of extra details in there.
Yes, so, which I think will be, you know, it's extremely helpful. We know that we're in this planning mode, and any support and guidance from OHS is greatly appreciated. So I thank them for taking the time to do that as a final resource in the last session, because it did compile a lot of information based on the questions that were being asked. As it pertains to the resources that are included, I put a link for the National Institute for Early Education Research. That's strange that it wouldn't open for you, Dawn. I included that because it is very cumbersome. It's a lot of information, but if you scroll down in the report, there is on table 1, it gives you every state listed, and it will let you know whether those particular states are addressing reopening policy plans for pre-K.
Can you see this chart? Can you see the chart?
I still see the agenda.
That is so bizarre. I'm sorry, I have it up. Okay,
so what it includes, you'll see each state, you'll see whatever grades or ages covered in their state reopening plan. It includes, did they change class size to ratios? There you go, Dawn, thank you.
I had to start and do it again, yeah.
That's okay. You can see for the pre-K policies addressed in their reopening plan, does it discuss about adjustments to screening requirements? non-COVID-19 or conducting child assessments? Does it include adjustments to required programs, teacher assessments in pre-K classrooms? Do they have mask policies, which is something that we've been discussing at length on these calls back and forth, trying to see whether that is even feasible for children in 3 and 4 year old classes? And do they provide any kind of communication and planning for remote learning? So of course, as I stated, every state is listed there. I'm not telling you to review every state, but just take a glance at what other states are doing and how they're supporting their children and families who are enrolled in pre-K. So that is why I wanted to make sure that I included that resource for you to review. I also put a link for the Head Start Heals. They have a new webinar. We've touched on the Head Start Heals campaign, a lot of information about trauma-informed care. You can access the previous webinars that have been compiled on eClick. But this particular webinar is about engaging families in conversations about sensitive topics. And that will be offered on August the 27th from 3 to 4:45. So if you can, please go on and register for that. Just another support for you in how to communicate with your families, because we know as as local school divisions are making their final decisions, and as CAP agencies are making their final decisions about the operations for the fall, that will come in handy in your level of interaction with your families and how to engage them. Reminders, we know that the Virtual Education Summit is next week, August 12th and 13th. I know they have a large participation based on those that have registered. The presenter is Dr. Kimberly Johnson. We've seen her in various instances, very motivating, very productive, I believe, for you. Just to give you a little break, it's okay to take a second to, not plan in that moment, but just get some support and maybe laugh and move around a little bit, because we're just so stuck in planning mode. So I put that link on there. But I wanted to go up in the interest of time, looking at the roundtable discussion. So I put on here, because the question was broached to us about how programs are faring with the CACFP waivers and reimbursements and food distributions for their families. We know that many of the programs will be virtual or maybe a hybrid option, but we're just trying to get some feedback from the field to see how have you addressed CACFP wages and reimbursements, or are you even providing some kind of food distribution? Do you have a plan in place for that, for if you're providing some level of virtual service option?
I put us back on the fold mode so we can have more of a conversation about the CACFP.
That's okay.
So does anyone have input for that?
I know that waivers were in place during the spring session after the shutdown in May, and so you had some flexibilities there. I know that OHS put out some guidance there, but moving forward, has anybody even considered about reimbursements and what any level of food distribution would look like for the fall?
So this is Katie. We're going to have face-to-face children that will get, lunch and snack and breakfast.
Yes.
But then we're also going to have our virtual learners. So I think, we had a food distribution service where they would come up and they would get several days, and they would come up on certain days of the week, and they were given enough food to last them for several days. So I'm sure we're going to continue with that with the virtual learners. So we will be giving them the breakfast and breakfast and lunch. My concern is I'm trying to see how, if the snack is different for Head Start, we give them snack. So I don't know, trying to get snack to the virtual children might be a little bit different. So I'm trying to navigate that right now, because that's not a normal thing within the school system. So that's, I know we'll be feeding them the virtuals like breakfast and lunch. It'll be coming in and doing kind of what we did over the summer, uh, like a program, but I don't know how we're going to handle the snack.
Okay,
I don't know if I should just not use the snack. Like, I don't know if I should just not give the virtual learners snack, or if the parents want to come up and pick up snack for several days. But again, that's going to look different because, at the time of the snack, you have to say, yes, the child got the snack, you mark off. There's like procedures that you have to follow, regulations with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's going to be any leniency or different things that we can do with that. I mean, I don't know if they'll really need the snack. They might. Some families might need that snack. So I'm trying to kind of figure out what we'll do. We'll certainly give it to the kids that are in seats, when we have them face to face, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the virtual. But any ideas would be appreciated.
Good morning. This is Amber from York. Can you all hear me?
A little. You're muffled a little bit.
Okay. Is that better? Is that better?
Yes, this is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at York, we're going to have a hybrid model as well. Initially, we're going to start off virtually, and then we're going to move into some center-based 4 classrooms, and then offer the remaining classrooms to continue to go virtually just based on our structure. And so for our virtual classrooms, we are going to offer breakfast and lunch. We're not planning on offering a snack, but they're going to come 2 days a week, and depending on those that are in the virtual classrooms, we're going to run our bus to go to specific locations in the county. We do have a smaller program, so we do have that luxury. And then depending on who, the needs of the families, our family service staff are going to work with us as well. So it's going to be 2 days a week delivery of meals. And then our plan is to just provide a half gallon of milk to last for that week. But we were not planning on offering a snack, just the breakfast and the lunch.
That's a good idea with a half gallon of milk as well. Has anyone else thought this through or has this for virtual options?
Hey, Dawn, this is Verlaine. We have, we're serving 7 different counties, but with 2 of our counties, they are going to provide lunch and snacks, both for virtual as well as in-person classes, as they would in their in the public schools. I met with the director of food and nutrition of that county, and they had assured us that that is the process that they will provide for our Head Start children. They have a hybrid model of in-house, in-person, as well as virtual. And the virtual program will receive a week's worth of snacks and food, milk, as well as milk. And they will pick up 2 times a week, but they are providing snacks as well. She's also sent the update on the price per meal. So I coordinated with that program. There's a couple that I'm still waiting to hear from, but this 4, 5, 6, 8 classes will definitely have lunch as well as snacks, and even those that are virtually served will also have the same process, and they will pick up the meal at the elementary schools, like through the bus loop route.
Thank you, Verlaine. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Maybe you don't have it fully flushed out as to what may happen next.
Well, this is Angela Barnes from Pennsylvania County. We're also actually going to be, I'm working with the schools. We have 1 classroom in the school, and I talked with the principal yesterday, and she wanted to know our plan. We were going to go on a staggered operation, but because of the high numbers around our surrounding areas, we're going to start virtual and the hybrid model after Labor Day. So we're working out with them to deliver snacks. Some of our areas receive snack or breakfast, and we're going to do that option plus lunch. And we're setting up delivery services where we'll have some sites for pickup and then deliver personally to those families that don't have transportation. And then we're going to do, we also have an option where our nutritionist is looking into packaged meals so that we can have those delivered to those families. So we're still in the planning session, but we do have a plan, and I'm meeting with all staff on Monday to do a Zoom meeting so that I can share all the plans and the updates from all service areas.
So do you anticipate using your family service staff to make the deliveries, or you're
We're
still working
using our
through
bus
that?
drivers,
The bus drivers, okay.
yeah, because we're going to do what we did in the spring. When this all started, we started having using all service areas involved in the process, and our bus drivers were, including the teachers, were delivering meals daily plus educational packets to the families, and it worked out perfectly. So we're starting off virtual, and then when things kind of simmer down, or depending on how things go, instead of opening up fully, we're going to go into our staggered schedule, which that was our initial plan. But because everything that's going on, that's going to be our second option once things calm down. But as far as the meals and stuff, we all made sure that we're going to serve every family that's in our program.
That's great. That's great. I know the needs are different.
Yeah, we did get confirmation from our nutritionist and CACFP on the options that we have to do that.
Thank you for sharing, Angela. I know the needs are different between grantees that are with school divisions and CAP agencies. I know you have to consider more and build better partnerships and make connections in different ways than those working with the local school division, because they're following their guidance. So thank you for that, Angela. Did anybody else?
We did do surveys. I'm sorry, we did do
Oh, yeah,
surveys.
you're fine.
And the majority of our parents accepted meals. Some of them said they didn't, because I remember on the call we had yesterday when Shaki and the others was talking, that some of them refused because the schools were delivering meals to their others, students. So we wind up having additional meals left for those families that didn't accept those meals. And there were some families that said, well, we really need the services, so can you please, accommodate us? So we constantly make sure that family services is updating us on those families before we deliver those meals. So we'll know exactly what their situation is.
Thank you for that. Did anyone else have any suggestions, ideas that can share? Let's see. Let me check the chat really quick and see. Okay.
Hey, this is Mara Burke, and in Fairfax County, we're doing very similar work to everyone else. We're in this public schools, so we're working with the head of the food and nutrition services as well, similar to some of the other people that have spoken, and we're looking at doing delivery on school buses. One of the things we're also looking at that we're hopeful in the future that if the legislation goes through in Congress, that we'll be able to expand along with the K to 12 food service to adding dinner to the food, but we're waiting on that legislation as well. And that wouldn't come out of our CACFP, that would come out of the I think it's the the free lunch program in the public schools.
Thank you, Mara. East, I saw that you unmuted. Did you want to add?
No, I was just joining in. I'm sorry I'm late today. So I apologize. Thank
You're
you.
fine. Thank you for being here. I saw that you turned yellow, so you unmuted real quick. But
Yeah, no, when I logged in, I was unmuted, but thank you.
okay, so we're just to bring you up to speed, we're just talking about any food distribution ideas, CACFP waivers and reimbursement, how people are planning in order to continue to provide those services to their families in the fall, especially those that will be providing virtual options, service options for their children and families.
Tandwa, Katie Katie Stockhausen in the chat says, it seems that most of you who are virtual are not going to provide snack. Is that correct? Just asking for verification. If you're going to be virtual option, you're foregoing the snack. Just getting a consensus. Like Angie Barnes says, they're providing either snack or breakfast. Fairfax is providing snack. I guess if you could just put in the chat about the snack to see what people are thinking about that. And then we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah. And I know some people are still working through the options. So thank you for updating and thank you for sharing.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a question for those that's not providing snacks? We haven't quite decided yet what we're doing, but is there a reason why, what's the primary reason for not providing snacks?
Katie, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Oh, so we're definitely going to do breakfast and lunch for the children. That's the first I've heard. So I appreciate, as far as Maura's saying about there might be dinner available. But I'm just kind of concerned about, our kids are different. We don't provide snacks. So we're in the public school system. So when they go through the snack distribution, like when they go through the lines to pick up the food, and that's where they have them set up at different schools. And then we do like a run at families that can't get it. I guess my concern is we'll be running all over the county trying to get snacks to these little preschoolers that are doing virtual. I don't know, it's going to be very difficult for us to do it. I think if we can't have snack there and then are you Head Start, are you not Head Start, you're going to get snack. Oh no, you're not going to get snack. So I'm worried about that. Like when they're going through the line, it might be very difficult. That some families are not going to get snack and other families are going to get snack, and it's just different.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we'll get in trouble. I mean, again, the kids that are coming face to face for us will get snack, but the other ones might not get snack. And then I worry about that whole monitoring. How do we know which ones? Like, I'm not going to be at all these different distribution centers. How am I going to know which ones got snack, didn't get snack? And the accountability of making sure that we're putting that in, and then for the reimbursement. So I'm kind of worried about doing the snack because of all that.
So Katie, I just have a thought. This is a brainstorm, and I'm going to repeat part of this because I don't think people could hear you very well. The concern is in a public school system and their meal distribution drop-offs and pickups, and if you're not a Head Start family, you wouldn't be getting snacks. So how's she going to keep up with who's getting snack and who's not, and this and that? And so what I was wondering is, this is just a question to throw out there, are you providing some take-home packets or manipulatives or materials on like a weekly or monthly basis? And if so, could you send home the snacks for families then with those materials, like maybe weekly or monthly amount, like just fruit cups or something? Is that another way around it? I don't know.
That's an idea. So I hope that, that flexibility, because there's certain things that you have to do with that snack, like at the time of snack, you log on, you make the accountability piece. Yes, these children got snacks. So yeah, I just want to make sure I kind of firm up the accountability piece of that and the monitoring piece. That might be something that we could do. So you're saying give them snack for a whole month.
Well, I don't know if it's allowed, but everybody seems to be flexible these days because we're so out of the box in uncharted waters that I would think CACFP would allow that if you documented what families you gave it to and how much and accounted for the amount of days. I mean, but I'm not the CACFP police, so what do y'all think of that idea?
I mean, I think if we provide meals, if we do virtual, our thought was to give out one box on Monday that have food for the whole week. Because really, even if we did like a drive-by, you still don't know if they're eating it. So CSCFP, as the guidelines are now, you know, they have to be in front of you eating it with all components there. And they're not supposed to take it out of your presence. So to me, I think it would be the same if I gave you a box of food for the week. I gave it to you. So it would be the same if you drove up in a car and got it and left. You know, I don't know, you could be taking it and not eating it or giving it to someone else. So I think the accountability is the same as if you gave it all to them one day or if you gave it to them on a daily basis. But if we do food, that's probably how we will do it. Not a distribution every day, but at least a few days at a time.
Yeah, and that's what we do with, that's what we're going to do with breakfast and lunch. But with snack, it's that whole accountability piece. Like, you know, they have to be there. You have to provide it for them. I don't know. There's just different regulations with it. I just want to make sure. I think, and there might be some issues when parents come up that some don't get. Like, why are we not getting snack? And how do we know what? You know, I mean, it's just a little bit difficult. We don't have the manpower. Our team is really small. We don't have the manpower to do driving here and there. And we're already, because we're doing face to face. Those buses, I'm not going to have service to buses because they're going to be bringing children in and doing double back. So I'm kind of going in the thing of I'm not going to provide snack for the kids that are going virtual. But I hope I can do that, and I might not, you know, that's my worry.
I see in the chat that Angela shared that they have documentation on their families that receive the meals and they make them sign for it. Also, Kathy brought up a question about dietary restrictions for children and making those and thinking about those considerations as we're looking at food distribution. But you have that information about the children and families. It really goes to the level of planning, making sure that you're providing the appropriate meals according to the needs of that particular child. So you would have to have some kind of documentation in place to follow the nutritional concerns for each child.
And that goes for snack too, like with allergies and things like that. And, you know, so that's kind of difficult to make sure that you're getting the snack comprises of this, you know, not this much sugar. And so it's all looked at by our dietitians. So I just think it would be really difficult. I'm going to probably lean towards not providing snacks for the kids that are going virtual, just thinking about the ones that are in seat.
Katie, you keep fading out. I don't know if you're.
I know. I don't know what's up with my computer. So can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Some days it's good, and some days we had a tower go down. There was a lightning storm a couple weeks ago, and we had the tower go down, and everyone's having difficulty with Wi-Fi and cell phones. So what I'm saying is, what I worry about is making sure about food allergies and making sure that the snacks are appropriate, and they have to be to get cheese sticks and just making sure the nutritional part of it. I'm swaying towards not worrying about providing snacks for the kids that are virtual. We do when they come to the line for breakfast and lunch, yes, they sign off. We know who came. So we have that accountability. So I just worry about the snack issue with, you know, giving them a week's worth of snacks, you know, and making sure that it's appropriate. And you know, I just don't know how we would do all that. But you know, with the nutritional value and allergies, and because all that has to be accounted for. If they have allergies, we do different things with the snack to make sure that it still hits the nutritional guidelines, but it meets the allergy requirement. So it's a lot to think about.
It is another layer along with all of the other million things that you have to consider and factor in. So So I understand your apprehension, Katie, and just trying to make sure that you're adhering to the guidelines. But remember, above all else, Dr. Bergeron says in every occasion that she's in front of anybody, document everything you do. Just have a reason for why you're doing what you're doing. The flexibilities will be provided, but please just document everything that you do. Because there's no blueprint for how we're supposed to function during these times. So we're just making the best decisions based on your locality. Everybody has to think about the children and family and the needs of the children in their area, not for, it can't be a blanket rule across the board for every program. So that's all that I can provide for you right now. And I will also follow up with, VDH to see if they've updated any other flexibilities as far as CACFP is concerned. I haven't received anything, but I will follow up just to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information.
So here's just an idea, and I hope you all can hear me. Could we have someone from the VDH that does the CACFP come on and talk to us for 30 minutes or 20 minutes on one of these meetings? And we can navigate those questions all together? Would that be something that we can?
That's a very good idea. Tondo and I can work on that. I mean,
Dawn and I can brainstorm and so that we can see who is the appropriate person to be able to come on to discuss that with you and give that update, and take a few minutes to answer any questions that you all may have. We'll look at some dates and reach out to see who we can get to join us to be able to give you that level of information so that you can hear it directly from them.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because then we're all having the same information and we're asking the questions, can this be done, can it not be done, and that way we know going into it. That would be really helpful. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Katie. That's a great idea. So moving on to the needs assessment. And I sent the link for the needs assessment out to you. It was the compilation of the 2018-2019 needs assessment survey. We had low participation. We knew that might be the case, especially with the needs assessment being completed in the middle of, really at the very beginning of the pandemic. But I'm looking at what we need to do moving forward for data capture for the 2019-2020 year. I know that there's some gaps in services, some flexibility in services, some adjustments in services that you provided. But what I would like to do is, because the needs assessment is very, very all-encompassing. It's a large document with a lot of questions, and you do have to commit the time to be able to complete it. And you see all of the areas that are covered as Dawn is scrolling through so that you can see the information that is gathered about the services that you provide in these service areas. So I'm looking at creating an abbreviated version for this 2019-2020 data. But I wanted your feedback because at the end of the day, this is what is used when anyone communicates with me about data outside of the PIR report. They want to know about the needs assessment survey. What information was collected? What are the percentages for the levels of services for children with that are homeless? What health services are you providing? What connections are grantee programs making with subsidy? What about children? How would they servicing children with disabilities? So this document is really the information that is shared out across the state. And I want to make sure that it's accurate. I want to make sure that it's up to date. And I want to make sure that it reflects the great work that you all do. So I'm looking at trying to prioritize what will be included in this next information capture. I know that you do not have to complete the PIR this month, which I know is great in one respect, but then we have to make those considerations thinking with this gap, how are we displaying how we still kept in contact and engaged and interacted with our children and families to try to continue these services, because people were very creative and you're champions at this time for a situation that has never existed before. But I wanted to get some of your thoughts. Did anybody want to take an opportunity to share their thoughts if they reviewed the information? What do you think should be included for next year? What do you think should be taken out? Does it not collect all of the information you feel is necessary to give that illustration of the work that you do? Anybody want to share?
Condor, this is Shaiki. I'm not sure what we need to take out, but I'm thinking, should we add a section around COVID response?
Yes.
So that when the report is generated and shared with our partners, they would understand what flexibilities we had or did not have. And how that impacted our service delivery and the data that's in the needs assessment.
Yes, so a disclaimer will be placed on the front so that they understand that many programs were closed beginning, I think it was about May 15th, so that they have the background to understand that that was the reasoning behind any level of gaps in services during that time frame. So yes, that will definitely be included in there. I know people have made mention that there are it's a lot of questioning about the different areas. Can we condense some of that?
Yeah.
Oh, she just muted herself.
This is Katie again. I
Yes,
agree
Katie.
with that. I was clapping when you said that you would have it condensed. I think it's a lot of, I was like, holy cow. It's a lot to do. And you start off on it and then you got to go to something else. So then you're shifting gears and coming back. I think it's about working smarter and not harder. And I think that when we condense it, I think it would be more of a document that we would utilize and go to. I think there's too much information, and some of that stuff remains the same year to year. It's always the same year to year. And so I think some of that you don't need to count again. And then I think back to when we have our long range goals, we focus in on, 3 to 5 things that we're really going to do well. Could that be something that needs assessment? You're focusing on 3 to 5 things that are of high need that we would then do really well, and help that plan around how we're going to do services or help that we need to get better. I don't know. I just think that it's a lot of work, and I don't know, for all the work that's put into it on your part, as you move forward with this, I don't know if it's a document that's really utilized as much as it could be if it was more condensed, more focusing on certain things rather than everything overall. We know we do a lot of good things. I don't know if there's a different way that you can approach it. Maybe you can't do that because that's not what they allow you to do. But I always think that, when you focus in on a couple areas and you do that really well, then you move on from there and say, okay, we've got this. That's my thought.
Thank you, Katie. So you brought up some specifics, and I like that you said, can you focus on maybe 3 to 5 things done well, and I will have to review the level of parameters that I would have to stick to as far as data points that need to be inclusive in the needs assessment survey, but we can trim it. We can trim it in some ways and to make it more approachable for you to be able to complete and compile. I know a question arose that was sent to me stating that maybe we can think about in some of the questions focusing more on early Head Start, because some of the early Head Start grantees feel like all of those questions that are included do not pertain to them. So I'm looking at that. I wanted to do something different to make sure that you didn't feel that this was a document that you completed that you never saw, and so it doesn't add the level of value to it, because it just felt like one more thing that you had to do. And so that's why I'm asking for your feedback. Also, in the chat, I see that Kathy said it might be a good idea to contact other state collaboration offices and see how they're collecting data. And I've communicated with some other states, because your needs assessment is state specific. So how you create it and document it is solely up to that collaboration office. So I'm trying to get some feedback from some other collaboration offices as well, because just to even see if they're going to complete it this year, because that was a question as well. I brought up the question, should we do it? Should we do it this year, being that the PIR was also canceled? But I'm going to broach that question again to see if it's a need. I have to wait for OHS to respond to that, but I want to make sure that I have a plan for moving forward, because if we're going to complete it, I would like to have the answers submitted by January in order for it to be timely, for it to make sense. So that was my goal in looking at it. I'm also thinking about the type of information. Now, someone brought up a question, said, maybe, in the chat, they said, make sure we include that programs were going virtual. So yes, that will definitely be in there. I'll see how to frame that question out to see if programs were providing virtual service options and the adjustments that you made in order to be able to complete those services. But like I said, my main purpose is to prioritize what's the most important data capture that we need. Is it inclusive of all programs? The reality is, I would like to have a larger number of grantees participate so that it is more reflective of the state. This particular data capture, we had about 24 programs that responded out of the 51 grantee agencies. So I would like to see, can we get over a 50% threshold in order to get a better picture of who can participate? That
I'd just
would
like
be
to
great.
add to that and say we've had a history of low participation, and I was a Head Start director, and I remember filling it out. It is very lengthy. And so Tondo and I have talked about trimming it down, but also I want to assure all of you that it will be used and utilized moving forward with our new collab director, Tondo. And so we really want to give more merit to completing this, so that we have something with the unification of early childhood in Virginia, especially when we're asked for data. And now that we don't have the PIR, we'll be looking at the needs assessment. And so just that little extra plug that it won't be a waste of your time. It will be used and carefully analyzed, and Tondo will lead that for sure.
Yes, and with the Collab Office Advisory Council, we need this data in order to update our goals for the state, and we'll be strategic planning and putting that together. So we want to make sure we see where the gaps are, so we can focus on what initiatives we need to pay attention to. What increases do we need in particular service areas? Where are we lacking? So we want to make those connections, because my goal is to leverage relationships with other state agencies and other Head Start entities in order to shore up your services. We have a large number of programs are saying we're unable to provide these particular services because we don't have any agencies in our area, then I need to look at that. I need to know that in order for me to find out how you can make those connections in order to service those families better.
And Tom, that's what I was going to say. I had to hop off for just a quick second, so I might have missed if someone else has said this already, but you were saying, just kind of analyzing, should we even do the needs assessment? We're not having to do the PIR and those types of things, but I think that it's critically important that we at least do the needs assessment because just last year, as Dawn mentioned, with the whole unification process, they used a lot of data, especially at the school readiness committee level. They used a lot of data from the needs assessment. And as I sat around the table, I'm like, where'd you get that from? And it was like, the needs assessment. I'm like, really? And so, and it was in there. So they rely heavily on that information. And so, to my other point of having a section of questions around COVID and how Head Start programs addressed and was able to continue or not continue to provide services during COVID, because we can see from the NEAR report that, it had that we didn't do meals, and everybody around the table was like, well, we did meals. So it's kind of like our way of, still capturing that type of information that's not reflected, even if we did a PIR, because our state partners are looking at that document to kind of paint a picture of Head Start services and what we can do and what we're not able to do. And then also just for Head Start programs that's not in CAP agencies, that don't really, this is kind of one of the situations where it's to our disadvantage that we're not with the school division, because a lot of these resources around meals and, transportations and technology specifically are the things that we're noticing in our program that we don't have the support that programs under school divisions have. Most of the technology departments are thinking it through for everybody in that division, but CAP agency, Head Start programs, I know us, we don't have that type of support, so we are having to figure those things out. So I think it's important to just have that COVID section, so when they go back and look and see, how we responded, it doesn't look like we sat on our hands, but that we did actually, put in the work with or without support from the school division. So that's just
you're absolutely right, Shaki. You're absolutely right. I wanted you all to have the opportunity to take some ownership of the information that's going out. And trying to make sure it's as inclusive as possible. You don't want anybody to say that you're not providing some services that that you are providing. So then that means that everything is not accurate. And so that is my purpose for sharing. That is my purpose for communicating with you and including you in the process, so that you have a voice and that I am being cognizant of your needs and trying to support you and advocate for you in any way I can.
And let me just put this disclaimer out there too. And I am guilty of not submitting mine this time. And it was because, and I usually submit, I'm normally very serious about the needs assessment and submitting it annually. But for whatever reason this year, I think because we just had so much going on and I missed the deadline, it was just like, kind of like that. But I do understand the importance of it. And normally I do submit the needs assessment. So I feel like a hypocrite sitting here talking about how important it is, and I didn't submit mine, but it was just really crazy. So,
well, thank you for full disclosure, Shaki. But we're human, and I understand that. That's why I made the statement. I don't want you to feel like this is just one more thing that you have to do. I want you to understand the connections, how the data is used through other agencies. And as Dawn mentioned, with this unification of the early care and educational system, there's a lot of components there. And we're really trying to push Head Start more to the forefront, to be more inclusive, because it's almost as if this collab office has been an island on its own. So we're being very aware of the connections. A lot of talk about coordination and collaboration with preschool programs throughout the early care system. So we're pushing for some changes. We're working on some goals to make sure that it's more inclusive. So I just want to keep you abreast of all that is going on. There was a comment in the chat stating that, can I please include the assessment how programs held staff accountable while working remotely, supporting the children and families and training? That is awesome. That is also great, because we know that Head Start allowed the flexibilities for you to continue to pay for your staff, but then how did you keep them accountable to know that the services were being provided? What did you do? Surrounding that, what did you have in place as far as checks and balances in your policies and procedures to support that documentation? So that's a great idea. Thank you, Shirley, for that. But I'm looking at the time. So I know that we also mentioned on there that we were going to talk about in-person versus virtual service options. And we want to make sure that you feel like this is a no judgment zone. This space is for you to feel open to share, connect, provide feedback, to vent, whatever the case may be. So we put that on there because we know things are changing and you want to communicate with your peers. To have this forum to be able to do so is great. But I would like to push that for next week to talk more in depth. If people have anything they want to add about that and updates, I will take all of the information that you shared about the needs assessment and I will use that in the planning and make those considerations when I'm updating how we will prioritize our needs. But I don't want anybody to miss this VPI call. I think it's essential. But Dawn, did you need anything to add?
Well, no, I just wanted to reiterate that that we've now gone to every week again. And last week, several of you and others were on the call. And just to remind you, we're considering it, lack of better terms, informal and formal. So today we had more of a formal meeting where she had an agenda and certain things we had to discuss. But next week is informal again, like last Friday. We could spend the whole time just hearing from you what's going on and brainstorm more ideas about virtual, in-person, and so forth.
I know people are still making decisions, and that's the purpose of that, just to support you in your planning. I'm going to work with Julia. We're going to send out another Google Doc. That Google Doc will be a place where you can share any feedback, share any links to where you purchase supplies. People have received some of their COVID money. Some people still haven't received it, but it can be a space that you can use as a reference so that you can share what's working, what's not working. If you have any COVID-19 guidance and updates that you've created, if you want to link it there for others to see the new procedures that you put in place for your staff, that would be helpful as well. So I will work with Julia on that so we can get that out to you next week. Okay.
And I just want to wrap up a thought. Everyone, Dr. B said this week on the camp series, and also I heard her in another meeting, that we're trying to get away from using the terms open or closed. Like, are you open or are you closed? Because guess what? We're all open. Whether you're virtual or in person, we're all open providing services. So if you can get your families and the community to start thinking about, are you supporting us virtually or are you supporting us in person, or any wording? But you all know you're not closed no matter what option you pick. So own it. You're open.
Words matter. Words matter. So thank you for those of you who have joined and participated. I look forward to seeing you next week. And hopefully you'll be able to join this VPI call and get some updates there. So have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Dawn. Take care.